Family mode.
Welcome everyone. Our program today is Show Your Creative Side with Artistic Suites version 6. Last month I did an overview of the Artistic Suites version 6 software. If you're new to the software or you've been working with it for a while but maybe you still want to watch it, we do have the recording, and at the very end of the program I will tell you where to go to watch the recording and download the projects that went along with that webinar. Some of the toolbars that I used in our project, I'm going to go over with you so that you have an idea of where to look on your software when you go to use it. The main menu is across the very top of your screen. And a lot of the tools that are in that main menu are going to be very familiar to you because a lot of them are the same ones that you'll find in other software programs. Also, a lot of the tools that are in that main menu can be found in some of the other toolbars. And as we go along, you'll be able to see kind of which ones those are. So under that main menu, you're going to find File. That's where you find your open a new project. You can open a design. You're going to do save as, print artwork, a lot of different things like that. On the edit, you're going to find the undo, redo, copy, paste, different things like that. View is this is where if you want to see the hoop, if you want your sequence manager to be open, this is where you're going to put a check mark next to it so that when you are in your software, these things you can see. And there may be times when you don't want to see them, so you can take that check mark back out. Sometimes I work with a hoop visible, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends what I'm working with. Under the tools, you're going to find Select Fabric, Edit Palette, Change Hoop. Different things like that are under there. That's where you're also going to find the clip art library. And then we have the window. What the window is it will show me how many projects I have open at one time. And I can toggle between those through this little menu here. So at the time when I took this snap of this, I had a project open that was a name tag that I was working on. I had another one that I'm not even sure what it was, but I never did title it when I took this picture. So if I wanted to go back to the name tag, I could just click on right here, and in my workspace then that project would be open. And I'll show you a little bit more on that as we go along as well. And then our help. This is one of those things that I tend to use a lot. I love the help topics. It's where I'm going to find any information on some of the tools that I'm going to be using, or maybe I want to do something specific and I'm not really sure what tool to use. I can type in the box and it will search some of that information out for me. So I use the help menus a lot. The standard toolbar is right below the main menu, and you can see from this that a lot of the things that were up in the main menu you can find on the standard toolbar, like new, open, save, copy, paste, undo, redo. This is like little shortcuts for you so that you don't have to keep going up under your menu bar and bring down, open up those, like the file and get to those. So it's just a quicker way to get them. Our tools toolbar, this is to the left side of the workspace, and this is where we're going to work with a lot of the things that we're trying to create. So you're going to find your selection tools. This is where we're going to go if we want to edit something that we have in there, our zoom tools, our measuring tool. We're going to be using a few of these for the project that I did for you today. So you'll see how these work. And then the palette toolbar. This is directly below the workspace, and you'll see that it has an upper area and it has a lower area. The upper area is the thread colors of the threads brand that I chose. So this is how I can choose a new color for something that I want. And then any colors that are in our design are going to show up in the lower palette down here. And I will show you a little bit more how that works when we get to the project, because I will be working with the palette toolbar. Some of the techniques that we're going to be using in this is we're going to be using our scanner. I'm using a graphic, insert, and edit, one of the 3,880 designs that come with the program. When you install your software, 880 designs are going to be pre-installed on your computer with the software. There are an additional 3,000 designs that are on the installations DVD, and it's in a folder called Designs. If you're like me, you want those handy. You don't want to have to keep getting that installation CD out so that you can get to those designs. So what I did was I copied them and then I put them on my computer. So they are always on my computer. I could put the DVD, the installation DVD away, and I don't have to worry about it. So you may choose to not do that. Either way works. So, all right, we're also going to create a decorative embroidery stitch line. We're going to create sewing lines and a crystal template. If you're like me, you love those crystals. All right, so the project for today is from the Wonder Wallet pattern by Lazy Girl. I changed a few of the things around to make it my own. So when we're working with this, you're going to see, if you have that pattern, that it's going to be just a little bit different. So I'm going to go to the software now and show you how to work through that project. So I've already opened the Artistic Suites software, and right away you get this dialog box. This is the new design dialog box. It wants to know, do you want to create new, or are we going to open an existing one? I'm going to create new, and I'm going to click on next. Right away it takes me to the fabric dialog box, and this is where you're going to choose your fabric that you're going to be putting this on, because it does make a difference how you digitize designs for what fabric you're going to put them on. So I'm using a smooth fabric, and I'm using a cotton. So I'm going to click on cotton, and my personal preference is to work on a white background. So I always pick white fabric. You can choose whatever color you want there. And then I'm going to click on next. That brings me up to the artwork source dialog box. Now, there's two options here for what you want to do to get our image in there. The first option is what I did originally to get my design or my graphic in here. I did get image from scanner. So I made sure my scanner was hooked up to my computer. I turned it on. I put my image on the scanner, the bed of the scanner. I clicked on Get Image from Scanner. I clicked Next. Now my scanner is not hooked up right now, so if I click Next, it's going to not be happy with me, so I'm not going to do that. So, but the image scan dialog box will come up when you click on the Next here, and this is where it's going to want to know, do you want to do black and white? Do you want to do color? What about image size? Different things like that. So I select black and white, and my image size, I do 100%. I can preview with my scanner when that box is up there. I can preview what that looks like. Now what this does for me is if my image is maybe crooked on a scanner bed, I would have a chance to straighten that up. Or say I only want to scan a certain part. Sometimes I do a lot of that. So I put a white piece of paper to cover the other parts. Well, maybe that didn't work really well. It gives me an opportunity to adjust my image on there. And then I would preview again. Once I get it just exactly the way I want it, then I click on Scan, and it will go ahead and scan that for me. Option number 2 is I drew an image of the scallop I wanted. I went ahead and worked with that, got it in there for you, and you can download that from the Janome website. It will be there by tomorrow morning so that you can not only download the project, but you can download the image as well. So once you do that, in that case, I would want to click on From File. So if you're going to use the image that we've created for you, you can go from File, and here's the Browse button at the end of this box here. I would click onto that and find where I put that. When you see it, you can click on it and then click on Open. Now it brings you back to the Artwork Source dialog box. When you do get image from Scanner, it will bring you back to this box as well. When you get back here, this is where you can choose the hoop you want to use. I'm using the Janome 230 by 230 hoop, SQ23. If you do the drop-down menu here, you'll see that there are lots and lots of different hoops to choose from. And if you don't get the correct hoop you want when you're working on a project the first time, don't worry about it, because there are other opportunities and places that we can change the hoop we're using or select it at that moment. So I'm going to click on Next, and now it wants to know what I want to do with this image. I want to open this as a backdrop, so I have clicked or put the little dot in that circle there, and then I'm going to click Finish, and now in my workspace I have my scanner image. So I'm going to zoom in on this so that you can see it better. And right now it is just an image. I want to make this into stitching. So from the Tools toolbar, remember that's on the left-hand side over here, I want to go to Create Freehand Shapes. And this will be where I find that. It's got this little area in the bottom right-hand corner. It will open up our flyout menu. So I want this one right here. And you can see when I put the cursor over it, it tells me what each thing is. This is the one I want, the Create Freehand Shapes. Now I want to come over here, and right away under Tool Options, which is right under our standard toolbox bar up here, we can set the smoothness level. And 10 is the highest that we can choose. I want it at 10 because I would like this to turn out as smooth as possible. And sometimes I'm not real good when I am trying to draw this, because I'm going to try to trace that line. So I'm going to start at one end. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down, and I'm going to follow this all the way across to the other end. Now there are times that I have to do this a few times until I get a little bit smoother when I'm doing it. Right now it's not going too bad. All right, when I get to the other end, I'm going to release the left mouse button, and to tell the software that I don't want to do any more freehand shapes, I want to right-click my mouse button, and that will tell it that this particular thing that I've just done is done. Now I need to go up, and to get out of this mode, I need to go up here to my rectangular selection and click on that. That tells the software that I want to be done creating freehand shapes. And now it has highlighted this for me. It's selected it. Up in the tool option box, everything to do with that line that I just drew is up here in the top. I need to kind of fix my line. You can see there are some areas that aren't really great. I'm going to do some editing. So I want to click on this Edit Shape Nodes. And when I click onto that, I get these little nodes here that I can play around with. This one, I can move it a little, but when I click on it, I get these little arrows, and these are great because these will help me to reshape it. So you can see when I bring this one down, it brings that down. So I can kind of move that one up. Now I have the same issue going down here. I have an arrow on this one down here, and you can see what happens there. So I'm going to kind of smooth that out that way. And then this one here, we'll bring that down a little. So you can see that just because it's not on that line really well right now, I can fix that by moving these little arrows and getting them smoothed out and more where I want them on my line. And then this one can come down, and I think that looks pretty good. You may want to play with it more when you're doing it, but for tonight I've already kind of gone through this anyway and already made mine, so I already have mine done. All right, I want to tell the software again that I am done doing my edit shape. I'm going to go back to my rectangle selection. I'm going to click onto that. Right away when I click onto that, I get my tool options open again. Now I know from measuring the pattern and measuring how wide this is going to be that my scallop is actually too wide for that wallet. So I'm going to change the width to 5 inches. So I'm just going to type a 5 in there and come down here, and I'm just going to click, and do you see how that changed? Now you can see it's a lot smaller than my backdrop here, my image. That's exactly the way I want that to be. So I am going to, because this is distracting to me to see that image on there, I'm going to go up under on my main menu, click on View. Remember how I told you that we can tell it what we want to see and what we don't want to see. So I'm going to go to Backdrop, and over here I can click on Hide, and the backdrop is hidden. If I want to see it again, I could go back and bring it back, but I'm pretty much done with that right now. Now I can go up under File, Save As. I like to save things as I go along so that if something should happen, I don't have to start completely over. So I'm going to tell it where I want it to go, and I'm going to go into my documents. I have a folder here that I made just for that, and we're going to ignore the fact that I already have 2 on there, and I'm going to name this Scallop. And yes, I know it does. All right, and this little tab above and to the left of our workspace here now shows me that I've named this. It's named Scallop. You will be using that later. So now we're going to create the cover. I want to create a new file. I don't really want this to use this right now. I'm going to kind of leave it where it's at, and I'm going to go on my standard toolbar and click on New. This will open another workspace, and you can see right next to Scallop it says Untitled because I haven't named it anything yet. So again, we have our fabric selection here. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other one, Cotton 2 and White, and this time I want to go and choose something from embroidery. We're not going to be working with an image right now. We're going to work with embroidery. So I'm going to go down here to the Browse button, click on that, and this is opening up some of those designs that were on the DVD that I copied onto my computer. So it is in the Drawings and Wings modular samples. it has a folder called Creative Drawing Samples. That's where you're going to find the design that I'm using today. And I'm going to scroll down until I find design CDW 0194. And it is almost to the bottom. So there's a lot in this one folder. And you can see in the preview screen here that it is a couple little fishes. It's really cute. And we're going to click on Open. Also in this screen here, it also not only gives you a preview, but it tells you that the width and the height of this design right here. So in this case, I don't really care what size it is because I'm going to be changing the size to fit. So I'm going to click on Open. And again, it brings me back to the artwork source box. I already have my hoops selected. I'm going to click on Next. Now it takes me to my color reductions because there's thread colors in this. I choose Janome thread. You may choose something different. There's a lot of brands of thread in here, so choose the one that you use. I like the Janome thread, so I'm going to use that. It shows me here what color numbers that would be in this design, and I'm going to click on Finish. Now I'm going to go right up here right now, File, Save As, and I'm going to name this one Fish. And since I already have it there, I'll do it Fish 1. And then I'm going to click on Save. All right. So now if for any reason I want to close this out, I can bring it back later. You can see on my workspace here I have a scallop and I have my Fish 1. Now if you can't see your hoop, remember you would go to View, put a check mark in the hoop. All right, this to work this way with this in this corner down here would drive me crazy. I like them in the center of the hoop. If I'm working on a design that is going to be maybe multi-hooped, it's a really big design, I will shut off that view of the hoop so that it's not distracting to me. In this case, I want to show you that on my standard toolbox is a picture of a hoop here, and this is where we can manage our hoop options. Again, I told you we could change our hoop if we didn't get the correct one in there the first time or forgot to put it in on ours. This is where we can go and select our hoop. Also, if we ever come out with a different size hoop or whatever hoop you use, if you don't find it in the drop-down menu, you can create that hoop. You can add new. This is where you're going to put the dimensions of that hoop that you want to add to the rest of them. And then you would name it. And when I do that, I always name it. If it's a Janome hoop, I would name it Janome. I would do it pretty similar to what they've got here. I would put the dimensions of it, and if it has a number like this SQ23, I would put that in there as well. So that would just be another one of my hoop selections in the future. I want to center that design in that hoop. So I'm going to just put a check mark there, and I'm going to click on OK. And then I'm going to give my software a second here to, and actually it's quicker tonight than it was for me when I was working on this alone. All right, so we have our fish here. I'm going to zoom in a little so you can see a little bit more what I'm doing. If I try to select any, maybe this whole fish right here, if I click on it, can you see that it selects just a small portion of that fish? I really want to select that whole fish, so I'm going to click off of it, and I already have my rectangular selection selected here. I need to, and I better zoom in a little more so you can see what I'm doing. I need to draw a box around this fish. I want to make sure that I'm below his fin and to the right of his nose. So if I go here, and I don't want to catch any of the big fish in here either. So I'm just going to draw a box by holding my left mouse button down. when I get the fish all in there, I'm going to let go of my left mouse button. And now you can see that the entire fish is selected. To make sure that as I'm working in here that I can do this at any time to select it, I am going to do a right click on my mouse and I can group that fish. So I'm going to click on group and I'll click off. Now when I put my mouse on it and click, it selects the whole thing. Up here in my tool options box, all of this only relates to this small fish because that's the one that's selected. I have proportional on here. I want to do mirror Y because I want this little fish to be on his back, so that, and you'll see why a little bit later. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to, I'm going to deselect that, and I'm going to go to my scallop tab. This is going to bring me back to my straight stitch scallop. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go up under my standard toolbar, and I'm going to click on copy. Now I'm going to go back to my fish tab, and I'm going to click on paste. And that brought my scallop into my software. So I'm going to, when you are trying to move something, you want to make sure that your cursor turns into the 4 arrows that are pointing in all 4 directions. That means that I can hold my left mouse button down and I can move that up here. And I would like to set that somewhere close to that fish and then let it go. Over here to the right of the screen, you can see that our object properties box is open. This is for that scallop. Now, it is just a straight stitch at this point, so I can't go to my little bucket here, which is for filled stitches. It won't let me do that. It is on this tab because it's a straight stitch. I want to leave it at running. Under styles, I want to scroll down until I get to number 44. I'm going to click onto that, and right away that gives me a really cute decorative stitch. Now down here in my palette, I can see that that stitch came in as a color that's already in my fish. I want that to be a different color from my fish. So I'm going to just pick any color here because really at this point it doesn't matter. This brown one here would work just fine. I don't want to click on the bottom part of it because that's for filled in areas. I want the open top part of that color. So when I click onto that, it changed it to brown and it added that color down here to show me the colors that are in my designs. And I would come up here on the standard toolbar and click on Save. Now I'm going to create a stitching line. This is my decorative stitch. These are my fish. I want a stitching line that's a scallop. So we have not copied anything since we copied our scallop stitch and brought it in here. That means I can go up under my standard toolbar and click on paste again, and it brought in another one. So again, I can move that one above the one that I changed into a decorative stitch. I want this to be about 1/4 of an inch away from the decorative stitch. I also want to change the color. So I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to, maybe I'll do a green one this time. Just click in the top box of that, adds a new color. So this is a separate color from anything else that's in my design. Now I need to make sure that this is 1/4 of an inch away. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and we're going to go over here to our measure tool in our tools toolbar. Click on that, and then at the top of my scallop, I'm just going to measure down. Can you see how I get a measuring tape there? And this says I am 0.171 away. So they're a little close. I'm going to go back and do my select and move this up just a little bit. And go back to my measuring tool, measure. All right, that's pretty close, 0.249. All right, so that will work for me. I'm going to go back up to my rectangular selection, and that will tell it I'm done with the measuring tool. It's just to finish things off. If you're working with some of these tools, it tells the software we're done. All right, now the fish is actually too big for our scallops, so I want to select the small fish. I want to resize it. I can do that two different ways. I can use my corner sizing handles that are outlining my fish here, and I don't know if you can see the numbers or not, but it has numbers right up here and right over here that tell you what the size is right now. So if I put my arrow on it, I can do it that way, but I find that up here, if I have it selected proportional, I can go over here and just swipe the width box and type in 2, and it will adjust the height to what it needs to be. So I can click in here, and I'm going to wait for the software to finish processing that. And I have just the right amount that I want between the fish fin here and the decorative stitch. I don't want a whole lot of room. I also don't want it to go too close over here to the side either. So, but again, these things can all be adjusted later, so we're not going to worry about that. So now I need to go up here, because do you see how I won't be able to use a rectangular select to select the large fish, because this goes up way too high on here. So I wouldn't be able to do a box around without catching some of that. So, but the reason I do that is I really want to show you, if I use the flyout menu on my selection tool up here, I can use the lasso selection. And that makes it easy for me to select this fish. I'm going to start somewhere over here, hold my left mouse button down, and just kind of draw around, making sure I get all the parts of that fish inside there, and then let my left mouse button go, and now all of the parts of that fish are selected. So again, I'm going to right click so that I can group that fish and these little decorative swirls on here. I want to resize my fish. I'm going to do it the same way I did the little one. I'm going to come up here under width, and I'm going to type in 4 inches and come down here and click to deselect. So when it's done working, I can tell because it is deselected. So now we have our fish, we have a decorative stitch, and we have our stitching line. I need more stitching lines though. I want to be able to do the side stitches for the flap. So this large fish is too close to the edge on this scallop, so I'm just going to scooch him over a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect because he may get moved a little bit later anyway. Then I have to wait for my software to work. All right, so I'm going to come over here, and remember we have our Create Freehand Shapes, but we have a flyout menu, and we're going to get the Create Bezier Shapes tool to work with. I'm going to start over here. I want a stitching line that goes almost to the edge of the scallops. I want it to overlap just above and just to the right of the end of those. I'm going to left click, and then you can see I have a little line stuck to my cursor. This is great because if I hold the control button down on my keyboard, it gives a line it snaps to. And you can see that those lines radiate from the center where I started that line, and as I get close to a line, it snaps it into place. So I really want it to be vertical. I want it to be kind of close to the bottom of the fish fin, and then I'm going to left click to tell it I've gotten that done. Now I still have more of a little tail going here, but if you right click, it finishes that. Then I'm going to go up to my rectangular select. I'm going to click on that so I can select what I just did. And now I'm going to go up here and do a copy and paste. Then I can grab the copied one and move it onto this side and let it go. These need to be 4.5 inches apart. So remember, we have our measuring tool. I'm going to use that measuring tool. I'm going to place it on one, holding my left mouse button down. I am all pretty close to 4.5. So I would move them in just a hair, but I think you got the idea on how we do that. You'd go back up to your rectangular select and go back and forth until you got it exactly where you want it. The next thing I want to measure and make sure is for placement is my large fish. This is going to be the bottom of that, the back of our wallet, and this is going to be the front of it. I want to measure from the top of my scallop all the way down to the bottom of my design, and I want it to be 5 3/4 inch or a little less. I'm only a little over 5, so I would come up here and I would choose this and move it down a little bit, and I would measure again until I got that correct, because this is going to be the front and the back of your little wallet. So I didn't want a lot of room left down below it. I wanted it to pretty much take up the whole back of it. So then I'd go back to my measuring tool, measure from here down to here. And in the instructions, it tells you step by step how to create this. All right, then I would go up on my standard toolbar and click on Save. Now, I personally love to use Slow Redraw. It's over here on my Tools toolbar. When I click onto that, a box will come up shortly. And this is how I can check the order of my stitching. Now, I've already done this a number of times, so I know that the order I brought things in is going to be the order that it's going to stitch. But a lot of times I kind of forget because I've brought so many things in, maybe decided not to use them, so I've taken them out. This will help me to make sure that the order is correct. And in this case, for what we're doing here, it's important for the order to be stitched correctly. So I have a little picture of what would be the foot on my embroidery machine. This is my Slow Redraw box. I have a Start button. When I click onto that, it starts stitching exactly like it will when I take this to my machine. Also, I have a speed control here, so you can adjust how fast you do this. And I would do this when I do it. This part of it, I would go as fast as I could. When it got close to where it would do the decorative stitch and the stitching lines, I would slow it way down, or I would miss those stitching at all. It would go so fast I wouldn't even see it, so I would slow it way down. I'm not going to go through all that because it's going to take it a little while to get there, and I don't want to run out of time. So the stitching order that this is going to be, it's going to stitch both fish, it's going to do my decorative scallop, then it's going to do my scallop stitching line, and it will do my side stitching. All right, so I'm just going to click on the stop button here and close this window out with the X here, and then it shows me the design again. I would go, at this point I'd be ready to stitch this out, so I would go under File, I would do a Save As. I use USB stick on mine, so if you get your designs to your machine different, you're going to go through those steps. So I would go find my USB stick, I would open the folders that these need to go in, I would name it different if I wanted to. I would go under Save As Type, and this is where you're going to find the format for your machine. I'm using the Janome, so the format I'm using is .jef. So I would click onto that, and I would click on Save, and that would put that on that USB stick. And I would be ready to stitch that out. It will come back. Sorry, I shouldn't have clicked on Save. I know this takes a little while. Okay. And it does tell me it was saved successfully, and it tells me how many stitches are in my design. Okay. I'm not completely done here yet because I want to add the pretty crystals to it. I like crystals in my embroidery designs and stuff just to add that little extra. So over here on my Tools toolbar, I have Create Crystal Shape. I want to use that, and in my Tool Options box, it now gives me the option to pick what shape I'm going to use for my crystals, and I'm using round. I could choose the color. I need something that you guys can see, so I'm using the amethyst. And size, I'm using the SS10, but you can see that there's a number of different sizes in here to choose from. Now when I bring this back over here, I don't know if you can see the cursor has a little crystal at the end of it, and I'm just going to start clicking. And these are like the bubbles from fish to fish. So I would just click till I got them where I wanted them. You do not want these closer than at least half of the distance on that crystal. So otherwise they're going to be way too close together. So you do want a little bit of distance between them. When you're done setting your crystals, we can always move them. We can delete if we want to delete some out of there. So you do have options. I'm just going to go to my select to tell it I'm done. And this one here, maybe I'd want to move it. I don't really want it to stitch. Let me zoom in on my embroidery. So I could grab that, select it. Over here it opens up. It tells me it's a crystal, again the size and the color. And I can grab that just like we do any design. When the cursor changes to those 4 arrows, I know that I've grabbed it and I can move it. If I want to delete one, I select it. I can hit the delete key on my keyboard and it's gone. So I would do that, and now I would be ready to make my crystal template. So I would go up under File, Export, Export to Crystals /Cutters. And this opens up a box. Now I would, before I actually did this part of it, I would make sure that my cutter is hooked up to my computer and is on. Then when it gets to this box here, I would select my cutter, which I'm using the Zing, and I'm going to set it up per the instructions that came with it. So I know that on my computer it's a COM port 3. It shows me the crystals that I've chosen, the size and the color. It also gives me a little preview here of what my template is going to look like. And I like to do a cut frame on it because that cuts this into a square for me. And I like that it's pre-cut. So set yours up to print. Now you do have to have somewhere that you want it to start. I like to start in this corner right here, so when it goes through the Zing, I can tell that it is going to cut right where I want it to. So we're going to load the Zing with the template material that's adhered to our sticky cutting mat. We're going to put that in our Zing. We're going to check placement by using this little trace button right here. When you click on the trace, you can watch the Zing. There's a little laser dot that will show you exactly where it's going to cut. It will outline that area. If you find that it's going off of your template material, Then with these arrows here, you can move that laser to where it's going to cut all on your template material. So I use that a lot because I tend to use every bit of that template material up that I can. So I'd like to save as much as I can. So where one was cut out, I want this one to start real close to that edge where the other one was already had a cutout on. So do that. When you get it placed where you want it, then you're going to cut your template material. So you're just going to on the cut, and it is so much fun to watch. It's just a great fun thing. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint and show you how to finish this or make our wallet. So here it is. This is the template material that's in my Zing, and I don't know if you can see these little holes that it has cut. And the edge of my stuff is right here, so I had it as close as I could get. It's not done cutting them right now. It goes a little further over there. And when we get that done, we're going to carefully remove the template from the sticky mat. So we're going to remove our sticky mat and stuff from the Zing. I set it on my cutting mat, and I carefully and slowly peel this back, hoping that all these little dots stay stuck to my sticky mat. If not, they're easy enough to poke out because they are cut. And you can see that it did cut me a square as well, so that this will be easy to work with. Then we're going to take our template and put it on our backer board. And again, I use my backer board as much as I can as well. So I do have another template right over here to the side of this one because I use all my stuff as much as possible. So I'm going to fit it onto there. Then I'm going to place my backer board over a box that can catch any wild crystals, and that way none of them get lost, and I can put them back in the container when I'm all done. So I have this over a box. I'm going to sprinkle my crystals over my template, and then using this little brush here, I'm going to gently brush the crystals into the holes. I want to make sure the crystal side is up. If you get one that is not up, you can use the corner of your brush here to kind of flip it back out of there and then brush it in. It's amazing how many of these actually end up with the crystal side down. I could not believe it. I thought it was going to be a lot of work, and it wasn't. When you're done getting them all into the holes, then you want to gently brush off any excess and into that box. And you can see that we have all of our crystals with the pretty side up in our template. Now we're going to remove the protective paper from a piece of the transfer tape. Keep that. You don't want to lose that. We need that protective paper to put back on in a minute. So we're going to set that aside, place the tape over the crystals, and finger press those crystals. Hopefully all of those crystals will come with it. Then we can put the protective paper back onto our transfer tape. This keeps it safe from sticking to anything else, and it keeps my crystals safe while I get my wallet ready to put for them to go on. So what we're going to do is, we've already got the machine set up. We put our embroidery design on the USB stick or whatever way we got it to the machine. We're going to open the file up. It's ready to embroider. So now I used a fat quarter. I cut it in half. I hooped that half with 2 layers of Artistic Tearaway Stabilizer. I personally like to use temporary spray adhesive between each layer. It makes it easier to hoop these items because they're not sliding around, they're not shifting. They all stay together and work as one unit. I'm going to, when I get that hooped, I'm going to put the hoop on the embroidery machine. And I also like to use a basting box. If you don't have one on your machine that's built in, you can create a basting box with your artistic software. So I always use a basting box. That is just like an added security for me. I know that things are going to stay in place while I do my embroidery, and I do not have to worry about it. And then I'm going to embroider the fish and that decorative scallop that we created. Then that other half of the fat quarter, we're going to place it over our embroidery with a right side down. So what we've got here is, you can see where the needle is here, so you know that my fabric is going far enough this way that it's going to cover my decorative scallop. And on this side, it's probably from here over, so that when I do my side stitching, I will still have 1/4 of an inch of fabric that will be my seam allowance. Hopefully that made sense. And then we're going to go ahead and do our stitching. So this is how it looks when it's done. We have our embroidery is sandwiched between, on the right side of our hooped fabric, we have our lining on top of it, we have our scallop stitch, and we have our side stitching for the flap. Now we can remove the hoop from the machine, carefully tear away the excess stabilizer one layer at a time. Don't forget to support those stitches so you're not distorting them as you're removing that stabilizer. You're going to trim about 1/4 of an inch from the scalloped edge. If you need to, I like to clip my curves. Some people do, some people don't. Feel free to clip those curves. I want mine to lay out really nice, so I clip my curves. And for the length of our wallet, what you want to do is read your pattern, make sure that from our scallop stitching down to the bottom of our fabric here under the large fish is the right measurement. I want to make sure that I have my 1/4 of an inch seam that I will end up with down here, and I'm okay with it stitching a little bit on here if need be, so that's all right with me. I don't want this off the edge though. All right, and then on the side, once I get my length of this done, then I can lay an acrylic ruler on my stitching line here, and I want 1/4 of an inch beyond it for my seam allowances. So when I lay my acrylic ruler on there for the length, then I can trim that side, and I'll have 1/4 of an inch up here, and then I'll do the same on this side here. Now at the bottom of my side stitching here, I want to just clip from the edge right to that stitching. Don't cut through it, just trim it there, because we're going to turn this right side out, and this needs to still lay flat. So it's easier when you do that. Put your little trim it right here, and then when you turn this right side out and you get all of it nicely pushed up, you know, your scallops are nice and formed well, then you're going to press it. Now we're ready to put our crystals on it before we put our wallet together. But we now have the right side out, so we can take this over to our ironing board. You're going to remove the protective paper from the transfer tape that's holding our crystals. We can see through that, so for placing our crystals down, it's easy because you can see exactly where they're going to go. When you get that down there, you're going to take your iron and just set it right down on top of those crystals until they've heated that adhesive and adhered it to the fabric. When you remove the iron, don't put your finger on those crystals, and don't try to remove the transfer tape yet. You want to make sure that you let those crystals cool before you do that. If you don't, you're liable to take some of them off with the tape, and if you touch it, you're going to burn your fingers, so don't do that. So once you get your transfer tape removed from there, go ahead and put that back on your protective paper, because this transfer tape can be used again. I don't like much waste, so I try to use things again and again. You're going to follow the pattern instructions from here on out. You're going to make the pockets the way they say to make the pockets. You're going to place them on that part of your wallet. Remember how the top stitching lines would be already encased up here, because our top with our scallop stitch and our side stitching is done right up to where our pockets start. So it really does make it quick and easy to put this together, and it really is so much fun. You can fit your license in it, you can fit some money in it, some change in it. I use it to carry my registration for my car, insurance card. I love this little wallet. And this is what the back of it looks like, and you can see that part of this got stitched into the seam at the bottom. That's okay. I wanted this to take up as much room as possible on the front, and it does. And then my crystals go from the back to the front. And remember how we flipped the fish? That's why, so that when we're looking at the front of it, the fish is right side up and not upside down, which it would have been if we didn't do that. And then you can see our decorative stitch turned out really pretty. And there are so many stitches to choose from. It took me forever to decide which one to use. So have fun with that. Play around with it. You can change the size of that too. And then our scallop stitch made sewing that scallop really easy. So that's it for our project. Don't forget to go to your local artistic dealer for more information about the artistic software. If you have any questions for them, want a demonstration, I'm sure they would be more than happy to do that for you. Projects are available online. Last month's are online, and the recording is online as well, so you can watch that again. And this is the path to get to those webinars. If you're like me, I do not want to type all that in. So an easier way for me, because I'm I'm not lazy, my time is, I don't have a lot of time. So we're going to go to Janome.com. We're going to click on the tab that says Project Center. So we could go to Machines if you wanted to look at the machines. We can go to Learning Center, but when we go to the Project Center, you can see little things under here that are choices. We're going to click on Webinars, and that will take us here to the Janome Webinars. And this is where you're going to go to get the project. And we have the project that I did last month is right here. I did a crystal project, I did an embroidery project. Those are both free downloads. This right here that's in this reddish color, this is the video. So if you click onto that, you will be able to watch last month's video again. The ones that from today will be on there tomorrow, as well as these. So you can watch both of them. And you can get that download, the instructions for the project, and the image as well tomorrow. And you can see that we have a webinar here for the MemoryCraft 12,000. And we also have a webinar on here for using the Digitizer MBX software. So this is a great website, and if you have these things or are curious about them, this is a great way to see what you can do with this stuff. Also, you can see at the bottom here, it has, well, this is from last month, so it has last month's register for that one. But this is where you're going to go to the Janome webinars here for July's webinar. It will show down here. You will click on it and register for it. Won't be on there yet, so you need to keep checking at Janome.com for the invitation to next month's webinar. It is at July 16th at 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to janome-webinar@janome-america.com. I would love to hear any questions that you have or comments. And if you do the projects that I've created and you want to send me some pictures so I can see what you're doing out there, I would love to see them. It would be great. So I want to thank you for attending. I appreciate you being here tonight. I know that you have busy lives out there, and when you take time to spend an hour with me, I really do appreciate it. So you have a great time, and hopefully I'll see you next month. Thank you. Have a great night.